The bell rings every morning. It's off to school and work. Waiting for some fun while my boss acts like a jerk. Pro show afternoons. Midnight's edge can't come too soon. Hit up afternoon's edge can't come too soon. But at night I'm filled with dread. I know just what I'll do instead. Come on and follow me. It's time you see for Lorn and Apollo. Time to laugh and learn. Come feel the burn of what the fandom was. What random fun doesn't escape? Isn't it great? Late night with Lorn and Apollo.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome in. You're here tonight with me and Marv. Kevin is indisposed this evening, so he will not be joining us. But Marv graciously agreed to slide in and join us for the night's conversation. Marv, thanks for being here. How you been doing?
Caffeinating.
I understand. This is very late for you.
We just had a really awesome stream over on That Game Place where we played Pragmata for the second time. It was great, but we did make our super chat goal, which means I have to do a 1v1 game stream with Wilton. So
what'd you set the goal to?
It was like $100. Like it was like $25 super chats, and we hit it like right away.
So you're going to be doing Fortnite, I assume? Because I think
no,
that's
they
much
actually
what he plays.
No, they voted for Smash Brothers. The chat got to vote on it. Fortnite actually came in last. I thought we were going to play Fortnite, but
all right,
it evens the playing field a little bit. I just have to practice a little bit.
You feel more confident in Smash Brothers than you do in Fortnite?
Well, with him, yeah, because he's really good at Fortnite.
Yes, that's true. I've watched him.
He's actually he's infuriatingly good at Fortnite. Like
it kind of goes to his
I watched him one time. I watched him jump out and headshot 3 guys. It was like something out of an action movie, and I was just like, I hate that you just did that.
I got to watch him on the stream here last week. I think I was observing and commenting, and I don't play Fortnite, so I'm not really familiar with it. But you're right, he is scary good, and I think that probably lends itself to. I have heard that he likes to troll people in there as well, to taunt them and get them to pop up, and he seems to be pretty good at doing 180 no scope stuff. It's
insane.
Yeah, so I imagine that's fun for him.
Yeah, I know. I'm sure a lot of things are fun for him. And then we got the legacy, the Wilton Legacy on Friday. So,
that's next Friday, isn't it? Not this Friday.
Is it next Friday? Okay.
I thought it was. Maybe I'm wrong. Is it this Friday?
You might be right. That actually sounds more right. Which is fine because I have to go to the movies Friday night anyway. So.
Oh, so you got it out. What are you going to see?
I got to review The Devil Wears Prada 2. Also, my wife really wants to see it.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's.
You know what? We watched The Devil Wears Prada the other night, the first one on Disney Plus, and I gotta say that first movie, it's actually a good movie. It's well written. It hits you where it needs to hit you. It does its job. Yes, it is about the fashion model industry, which I care nothing for, but. I gotta say, it's a really good movie, and I can't wait to see how Disney screws it up in the sequel.
This is 20 years after the original, though, isn't it?
It is 20 years after the original, and so then the original was created by 20th Century Fox, not by Disney. So this one will be by Disney.
Well, okay.
They love Anne Hathaway.
It was Anne Hathaway, and was it Glenn Close? Wasn't there somebody
Meryl
else?
Streep.
Meryl Streep. Oh, okay.
All right. Stanley Tucci and the one that they got to play Mary Poppins.
Oh, Emily Blunt.
Emily Blunt. Yeah, Emily Blunt.
All right. Well, I hope you enjoy it. I I've never seen the original, so I guess I can't really comment on it. I just feel like it probably wouldn't be my cup of tea.
Oh, probably not. But my wife wants to watch it, so she
Yep.
and she earned it tonight because she made the best pork fried rice like ever.
Well,
Uh,
gr-
she actually had the
congratulations.
audacity to ask me today, if I make a lot of pork fried rice, will you eat it? And I was like, is that a serious question? Like, obviously I will. Like, I love pork fried rice. And she used the pork that she used over the weekend. We grilled up these marinated pork steaks. And so that's the pork that she used. So it's a good day. It was a good day.
So when you say a lot, how much are we talking?
I mean, it was like a big bowl of it. So
So what
I've got like lunch and dinner for tomorrow.
so what made her decide to do a lot of rice as opposed to just
So when you make fried rice, it's usually better to use old rice, like, like leftover rice from other dinners. And we had a lot of leftover rice in the fridge, because I don't typically like old rice. I like new rice. So we make new rice a lot, and she just kind of eats the leftover stuff.
ageist?
I just, I don't like rice when it gets crunchy. But,
We do have some super chats to get to real
oh, good.
quick. We've got Mike Glass becoming a YouTube member. I'm not sure at what level, but I'm
Oh,
guessing this is
fantastic.
probably I'm thinking this is an upgrade because I think you were probably already a member.
I
We've
believe
got
so.
Juliet with our standard £5 sterling saying morning late night live with Lorn Apollo in chat. Like, subscribe, share. From Friday the 1st of May, Lorn and Apollo is on that pod place.
Yes, it
That's correct.
is.
And thank you for the reminder. We're trying
I'm
real hard
looking
to revoke.
I'm looking forward to that, Lauren. You want to know
Yeah,
why? Because
tell
one,
me.
because one, I never have to wait for you to send a link again because I have access in that StreamYard, and two, I'll be able to play clips
Hmm.
at will.
I hadn't thought about that.
Yeah,
Okay.
too late to back out now.
Thank you for the reminder. I probably would have forgotten to mention that though. It will be on Friday.
Yeah,
So
so this is the
be
last Lauren and Apollo on the Pro Network, right? Pro Channel.
well. I don't know if there was some talk of maybe for a little bit maybe simulcasting on both, but I don't know if there's a plan for that. I haven't finalized all of that yet,
Mm-hmm.
but I think that it should be. I'll put it that
Okay.
way. Next up, we've got Snarky for $4.99. Glad to see everyone. Let's have some more fun. Lorne and Star Wars, always an adventure. Actually, I pitched this kind of for selfish reasons in a way, but because in preparation for The Mandalorian and Grogu, I have been going back through The Mandalorian. I've gotten through season 1 and 2, but then I had to do the Book of Boba Fett. And I had forgotten just how insane the Book of Boba Fett is.
How
And so
terrible it is.
well, it's like we'll get to that. I don't want to hit that yet, but it just made me think, gosh, there have been so many different versions and origins and bits of lore that have been created around Boba Fett. I thought that it would be fun to discuss it. And this was something I didn't know about you. You told me this morning he's actually your favorite Star Wars character, and I didn't know
100%.
that.
Oh yeah, big time.
So that was a really pleasant surprise for me because I just pitched this thinking, okay, this is something I can talk about off the top of my head.
That scene in The Mandalorian season 2, when he gets in his armor again, and pot belly and all, that was bigger for me than the Luke Skywalker scene.
That's impressive.
It was like
And
I heard the Titanic music in my head during that scene. It was like, you're here, there's nothing I feel. Like, it was like watching him actually like doing the things we always knew he could do, and like doing it to stormtroopers. I was just like, this is every dream I ever had as a child.
so I'm really looking forward to getting to this because I think you're going to have some great insights that I may not have had. So I'm looking forward to that. We'll get to that in the second half of the show. And Cape, I saw that you already answered this question yourself in the chat, but I wanted to highlight it because you did ask it, and I wasn't sure if everybody else knew. Lauren, can you clear something up for me? I sometimes hear deep cut Star Wars guys mentioning Commando Cody, but I had the distinct feeling that they're not in reference to the Republic serial fella. Actually, they were in reference to the Republic cereal fella, and that's where Commander Cody in Revenge of the Sith comes from. So, for those who don't know, uh, back in the serial days of movie making, when you would have a short serial picture before the main feature, Republic had all kinds of pulp style heroes, and a lot of them were rocket men. And Commando Cody was one of those. He was one of the inspirations for what would later become Boba Fett and the Mandalorians. George Lucas was a giant fan, so he created Commander Cody in Revenge of the Sith as kind of a sly wink to his generation who would remember the Republic serial guy, Commando Cody. You could find a bunch of those serials up on YouTube, by the way, if you ever want to check them out. They're kind of crazy. They did an awful lot with very little in the budget, but it's the fist fights that surprise me because they've got fist fights that go on for a long time. And it looks to me like they're not pulling punches. It looks to me like these guys are really actually fighting. So
Hmm.
they fight in the way that is not like the choreography that we see today. So if you want to have some fun with that, I'd recommend looking up some of those old serial pictures. So anyway, that's that. Um, let me see. What were Boba Fett's first words? Depends.
As
Are we talking the holiday special, or are we
yeah,
saying in The Empire Strikes
in The
Back?
Empire Strikes Back, I believe it's as you wish.
It is as you wish. Um, I don't recall what it was in the holiday special, but it really depends on what you're considering your origin. Um, anyway, it's been kind of an interesting news day. I didn't grab some of the most recent stuff tonight, but I have a feeling the next few days are going to be pretty darn interesting.
Yeah, welcome to my world.
Yeah, I don't envy you. There's so much going on. The Kimmel thing from last night, I get the impression is maybe actually going to blow up into something bigger, and I was not sure that was going to happen last night.
Hmm.
But the reaction today has been interesting.
Well, I mean, because he doubled down like an idiot. He should have just, said, like he could if he had just said like, I told a joke that was probably in poor taste. I shouldn't be joking about something like that. I apologize. I'll be the bigger man and apologize. Instead, he smirked and snarked his way through it, and ripped the first lady and ripped the president, and like he was attacking the president after the man almost, you know,
Yeah,
after what
and
almost
Josh
happened. Like,
and Josh Diamaro now has a test that will make him look weak if he equivocates, and I think that
well,
maybe.
have
Go
you
ahead.
have you I saw a clip. I only saw it briefly. I didn't watch the whole thing, but it was Johnny Carson
Yes.
the day after Reagan uh
Yep.
had, because Johnny Carson ripped Reagan quite a bit, I believe, on his show.
Well, he was an equal opportunity jabber.
Yes.
You never really knew what Carson's politics were because he
Right.
gleefully skewered everybody.
Yes. But he, the day after that happened, he was very like, somber and respectful.
And so was everybody in the audience. I saw the same clip.
Well, and now I think we're at the point now where like an attempt on this president's life, it's not phasing people anymore the way it did. Like, well, the first time was, a millimeter off and he would have been dead. But like the other two times, like I feel like people are just like, yeah, whatever. It happened again.
Well, I think part of that is because you've got at least a quarter, possibly up to a half of people that don't believe that it's a real attempt. There's a bunch of people that think it's all staged. And I think that's what offended me most about Kimmel's attitude last night was you're trying to pass this off as no, I wasn't calling for this. I'm I'm making a joke about his age, and everybody knows no, you're not.
No, you're not.
You
You never,
absolutely are. You
of all the
spineless.
yeah, of all the things that he hits him about, it's never the age. He's never called him old.
Yeah, it was spineless. It was cowardly, and it's dressed up as though he's being tough, and he thinks that he's untouchable. He thinks that he wins either way, and I think the most heinous part about it is that you know that if the attempt had been successful, he would say words about how this was unacceptable and never should have been done, and yet I am certain that he would be celebrating internally.
Well, I mean, we
And
saw,
that,
Springsteen from his Rage rally. It was like we should all pray and be thankful that our president survived. And I'm just like, dude, you are such a phony. You're such a phony piece of crap. Because like he's sitting there where in his concert with $2,900 floor seats, which is made to capitalize and profit off of people's rage, specifically at this president. And like that's the rhetoric that makes the spark grow into the fire that will burn the first order down. It's sorry, Lorn, I quoted the prequel. I quoted the sequels.
I know,
But
I got it.
but yeah, I mean, like, but Springsteen does that all the time. Like he had a song about September 11th. He had a song about the 41 shots. Like he hears national tragedy and he sees dollar signs.
Yep. Yeah, I agree. But anyway, besides that, it's not like there's a dearth of news to cover. I think that there's going to be all kinds of stuff that is going to be keeping us busy for a while. Also, this is kind of a left turn here, but have you seen the little featurettes that are coming out for He-Man?
No, I saw that there were like images of Skeletor and stuff like that, but I hadn't actually seen the featurettes.
They released like 3 or 4 of them, and they're short. They're like a minute to 2 minutes each. They're not showing a lot of new stuff, but I did like the one on villains. It did show more of Skeletor. You got to hear a couple more lines.
Oh, did you?
It's a little bit cheesy because Skeletor's saying something like, "I'm a villain," and then he pumps his fist and kind of does something. It's cheesy, but when I saw it, I actually did laugh. I laughed at it and thought, you know what? I like it. I like what they're doing with Skeletor.
Because he's evil.
Yeah, it's like I don't know how to describe it. I don't know if it's going to land for everybody else, but in the moment when I saw it, it got me because I wasn't expecting it. And it was one of those things where it was almost a snort laugh before I even realized what I was laughing at.
Yeah.
And it was like, it feels good to be excited about in a childlike way. It's like I saw Skeletor and it's like, yeah, that's Skeletor. The animation looks good. The voice, I know not everybody likes the voice. I don't mind it.
I don't mind
And
the voice. Of all the things
how
to mind, I don't mind the voice.
how great would it be to be pleasantly surprised by a Jared Leto performance if that's what happens?
I would enjoy that. I would very much. Look, the thing that keeps holding me back from this movie is the same thing that's been holding me back from the beginning. Every time they talk about it, they say something dumb.
Yep.
Every time they talk about it, they bring up toxic masculinity or something equally like offensively obnoxious. And it's the one when it was just the director, I was like, okay, he misspoke. He used the wrong word. When the actress used that word, I was like, oh no, this is the strategy. This is the marketing rhetoric that we're going with.
I agree. I think it was Kevin, maybe it was you. He is taking it, and I hope he's right. I think he might be. That what they're trying to say is that there are two sides to masculinity. There is the bad kind and there is the good kind. And I think what they're trying to say is that Skeletor is the bad kind, He-Man is what the good kind would be. If they do that.
You know how you could say that though, Lorne? It's the difference between being a good man and a bad man. And it's the difference between being a hero and a villain.
Right. Now, I'm going to hit you with this. Let me know what you think. I think what the Tila actress is getting to, because she's the one that has also said it, I think the way that they're going to paint this is that Duncan is going to be kind of a mess when Adam returns because he failed Eternia when Skeletor won. And I think Tila is going to look at that as being disgraceful. And so Duncan is going to have an arc where he's going to have to return to being the man-at-arms, the man that he's supposed to be.
You mean one of our heroes is now a sad, pathetic old man who has no confidence in himself?
I don't know if I would go that far. I don't think they're going to do it quite the same way. And in the instance, I mean, it all depends on how they handle it. I think what we've seen of the little bits that they've shown us of Eternia under Skeletor, it looks like, yeah, the kingdom is ruined, and it also looks like everybody is in jail. So The problem for Duncan, I could see him being dejected if he's a commander and yet he's got no troops. He can't mount a resistance because there's nobody to resist.
Right.
And if they handle it that way, then I think that can work. If they do the I'm sitting on my butt because I'm sad that I failed, that won't work. So it's all going to come down to the way that they handle it story wise. So
Yeah, I agree with you. I agree
I'm
with
still
you.
trying. I'm still trying to be excited. I love the imagery that I'm seeing come from it, and
Every trailer, I get excited, and then somebody says something that just makes me go.
yep, I understand. I see Sean out there in the chat asking, "Hey, where's Kevin? He's indisposed tonight. He couldn't join us, and so Marv is sitting in for him. I'm hoping that he'll be back on Friday, but right now I don't know yet. So
Yeah,
we'll just have
we're
to
unsure.
we'll just have to take it as it comes. Um, let's go ahead and get to our first story
All
tonight.
right.
I actually didn't have this shared. I got bumped out of StreamYard earlier and I forgot to put everything back in, so bear with me.
How could you?
I know. Here we go. Michael 2 already being discussed after record breaking box office debut, this one by you. Michael has only been in theaters for a few days, but its massive success and popularity is already forcing many to ask the question, will there be a Michael 2? After debuting to an eye-popping $217 million globally, the Michael Jackson biopic didn't just outperform projections. It blew past previous records and immediately sparked franchise talk inside Hollywood. According to comments from Lionsgate Motion Picture Group chairman Adam Fogelson, the idea of continuing the story isn't just speculation, it's actively being considered. Fogelson didn't mince words when discussing the future. Look, there's at least one more movie, he said. I was always excited by the possibility that you could make a more complete and satisfying telling of Michael's story if you weren't confined to only one movie. That's not a vague maybe someday statement. That's a studio executive openly acknowledging that the story of Michael Jackson may not be finished on the big screen, and given the numbers, it's not hard to see why. The original Michael reportedly cost close to $200 million to produce, including around $15 million in reshoots. Even with that massive budget, the film's $217 million global debut immediately puts it on a strong path to profitability. For context, that opening surpasses the debut of Oppenheimer, which previously held the record for a biopic launch at $174 million. When a film performs at that level, studios don't hesitate. They start planning the next chapter. One of the biggest talking points surrounding Michael has been what it didn't include. The film ends during the Bad Tour era from 87 to 89 and completely avoids addressing the later allegations that dominated headlines in the 1990s and beyond. That wasn't just a creative choice, it was a legal one.
Yeah, they had filmed the entire thing. This was supposed to be a 3+ hour movie, and they had to cut the entire third act out.
This is a little bit why I kind of doubt what he said above when he was saying that, look, I was always excited by the possibilities. I'm not sure you were excited about it until you had to cut the movie into two.
Mm-hmm.
According to reporting, scenes depicting a 1993 investigation into Jackson's Neverland Ranch were originally planned and even filmed, but ultimately removed. That's because a legal clause tied to a settlement with accuser Jordan Chandler reportedly prevented any depiction or mention of him. That forced the production into costly reshoots and a reworked third act, delaying the film and reshaping its final narrative. With those elements removed from the first film, the door is now wide open for a sequel to explore a very different chapter in Jackson's life. Business Insider reporting suggests that future installments, whether Michael 2 or beyond, could focus on the later years of Jackson's career, including the controversies that defined his public image.
Hmm.
Fogelson emphasized the importance of telling a more complete story, stating, "It's important to try to give the audience an authentic understanding of who Michael Jackson was. Whether that includes the more controversial aspects remains an open question, and likely a complicated one, both creatively and legally." If the
It's actually insane, like just how much the Hollywood media is trying to push this angle, because like Hollywood seemed to really hate this movie, and I don't understand why. And like they are really, like, despite the fact that he was, like, found innocent and stuff like that, and like there's never any talk about that. Like they're talking about it like it's a sure thing that what they think happened. despite there being evidence to the contrary. And it's, I mean, look, I don't know what happened, obviously. None of us do. But yeah, it's fascinating how like they are like on the attack about this.
Well, there's an awful lot of people. It's like I didn't follow any of this that closely, when it was happening. But there's a lot of people that I've seen comment as we've been talking about this stuff. They remember the allegations. They remember the media bloodbath that was going on during the whole thing. But this is why it's so important for newspapers, if you remember those things, to get information right when it's published, because people remember the headline. They don't remember the retraction. And I think that that's happened with a lot of people here. I think they don't know that he was found innocent.
You want to know like and this is like this is just like a me thing, like the reason why like I don't think he did it, because they went after him for it. Like, because there's so much of that rampant in Hollywood and they never get any charges brought against them. And the fact that he did made me think, oh, yeah, he probably didn't actually do it. Because if he did, he would have been protected. Because I just feel like I feel like those proclivities are so rampant in Hollywood right now, as far as like my opinion goes, that they all band together and protect one another.
Well, I think there's another element too, and that is we've all talked about how he was a strange individual. And given his upbringing and all of the things that happened, you would expect him to be a little strange. But it's easy to start conflating all of that stuff together too, You start thinking somebody is strange in one way and you start thinking maybe they're strange in another way as well. And I mean, I don't think there's any way to mince words about it. Towards the end of his life, the guy was pretty darn weird.
Oh yeah, he dangled his infant baby out of a window.
So
I mean, he was a wildly weird dude. He was not a normal guy. He was unsettling in how weird he was, and I think he was unsettling in this movie a lot of the time. But we never got to like the point where like his face was essentially a skull with his nose falling off.
right, and I think that may be another reason why people kind of went after him is that part of it is going to be envy. He was it's not a lie that he was the king of pop. That's not an exaggeration.
Mm-hmm.
He was a superstar on another level.
Yes, like you'd have to. I think the only comparable musical acts to him are like the Beatles and Elvis.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely true.
But like they're saying in the chat, Macaulay Culkin and Corey Feldman defended him, and if anything untoward had happened with Corey Feldman, he would have said it.
Yeah,
because
I
it would have
agree.
gotten him a lot of attention.
I'm not saying that I disagree with you. I actually don't think that he was guilty of what was alleged either.
Mm-hmm.
But I think I can understand why a lot of people don't know that or may have been envious of him and wanted to see him taken down. To me, I think either one of those explanations explains the reaction. And honestly, I think there's just an awful lot of people that heard the original allegations and just immediately thought he's guilty and never heard anything else. And that's why we have defamation laws. It's like once your reputation is gone, it's nearly impossible to get it back. And so it's just it's part of the whole weird story that makes up Michael's life.
Yeah, you're right. You're not wrong.
Anyway, Michael ends with on-screen text reading his story continues, a choice that didn't go unnoticed by audiences. The phrasing immediately drew comparisons to the now familiar Marvel-style teases, moments where films explicitly promise future installments. That kind of messaging is a deliberate signal to audiences that what they've just watched is only part of a larger story. And in this case, it reinforces what Lionsgate executives are now openly discussing.
Well, and so they planted the seeds for things for a potential sequel, I think, in this film. Like they planted the seed of his what is it called? Vertigo, like the skin condition that he had.
Viticulo, I think is how it's pronounced.
Because that's what leads to him getting the skin treatments that eventually, basically turn him white. And they lean into the they introduced the idea that he's addicted to
Plastic
uh
surgery.
plastic surgery, and we even see the start of his addiction to pain medicine. So you know, and that's the thing. I mean, that's the thing that um ultimately kills him, which, you know, there's a
And
whole other, apparently there is a whole tinfoil hat conspiracy about his death.
well, is it the same one that followed Elvis, where they think he's still alive somewhere?
No, it was that this was done intentionally.
Oh. What's the angle on that? I don't know that I'd heard that.
I've just heard that, like, you know, he made the wrong people angry about some stuff,
Uh,
and you know, maybe people on a certain side of the political spectrum that tend to, you know, try to kill, and that he was taken down for it.
Well, I know you liked the movie. Are you excited about the prospects for more, or do you think they ought to just leave it where it is?
You know what? I kind of agree with the real life fake wizard that it was a phenomenal movie that really didn't need a sequel. Um, I didn't think that it ever needed, like, I didn't need more. Like, where it leaves off with him singing "Bad" on stage, and they do the whole song. I was like, this is a phenomenal place to leave this off. But the movie's making far too much money, so what I think doesn't really matter. It's getting a sequel regardless.
Yeah, I think you're right. Although I am curious how they're going to tackle it without being able to cover that aspect. My guess is maybe they just pick up immediately after
Well,
he's found innocent.
they can't cover the 1993 situation, but they can, I believe, cover the 2005 situation.
Okay.
So if they do his career through the, like, if you pick up after the 93 stuff and you cover the 90s and then you move it into the 2000s, you could probably do it.
I do think it's like I haven't seen the picture yet. I'm still hoping to this weekend, but I'm not sure if my plans are still going to go through. Um, I do think you're still going to need a part two. There's just so much of his career after where you're at that point in time. I don't see how you couldn't try and at least tell most of his story.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's not like it ends there in 88, you know?
No, if anything, it's just getting heated up in 88. You know, basically, like, the bad, like, when he comes out on stage and does bad at the end, the point of it is that he's away, he's free of his family. Like, he's
Yep.
free of Joe. He and the Jackson 5 is no more, and that's not hanging over him, because the entire time as his singles career is taking off, his father is trying to get him back in line with the whole group. So, like, that's the thing. So,
Yep. All right. Next up, we've got Daredevil Born Again. Season 2 ratings collapsed by 50%.
insane.
Marvel's attempt to revive Daredevil on Disney Plus isn't just losing momentum, it's falling apart in real time. Season 2 of Daredevil Born Again has taken a massive hit in viewership ratings, with new data showing a drop that's impossible to ignore. According to newly reported streaming data from Luminate, Daredevil Born Again Season 2 has taken a massive ratings hit across every major metric. Season 2 has reportedly accumulated 4.5 million season views, 10.8 million hours watched, and 652 million minutes watched. Compare that to Season 1, with 8.3 million season views, 24 million hours watched, and 1.44 billion minutes watched.
Yep.
That's a complete and total collapse for the Marvel series. Depending on the metric, the decline ranges from roughly 46% to nearly 55%. However you break it down, the Daredevil Born Again ratings trajectory is heading in the wrong direction. The Daredevil Born Again ratings decline isn't just showing up in third-party estimates, it's backed up by Nielsen's own charts. According to Nielsen Streaming Originals rankings for the week of March 23rd to 29, Daredevil Born Again Season 2 failed to break into the top 10 entirely during its premiere week. That's a major red flag. For context, the number 10 title on that chart, Peaky Blinders, pulled in 449 million minutes viewed. That means Daredevil Born Again Season 2 came in below that threshold despite launching new episodes. And this can't be blamed on superhero fatigue or comic fatigue either, as both Amazon's Invincible, a superhero comic book show, and Netflix's One Piece, a manga adaptation, both appear on this list.
That's important because the fact that Invincible is on the list and Daredevil isn't just shows you how far Marvel has fallen. Because Invincible is a third party, comic book property. And One Piece is, manga, which has kind of dominated the comic book industry. So yeah, and this is, man, Netflix Daredevil is one of the most beloved things Marvel has ever done. And the fact that they fumbled the ball this hard is absolutely insane.
Even more concerning, this isn't a one off issue. Season 1 also failed to chart on Nielsen, which already raised questions about the show's overall reach on Disney Plus. There are a few likely explanations behind the drop, and none of them paint a flattering picture for Disney Marvel. Season 1 had a built in advantage: years of anticipation. Fans were eager to see Charlie Cox return as Matt Murdock and Vincent D'Onofrio reprise Kingpin. That kind of momentum could carry a show early. But once the episodes actually aired and people saw the show's heavy-handed political messaging, the response was more mixed than expected. Instead of building strong word of mouth, it appears a significant portion of the audience simply didn't come back.
I mean, look, the show is about as subtle as a brick. A brick being thrown at your head when it comes to political messaging. It is very on the nose. And things like, they ruined Vanessa as a character. Like, Vanessa was an incredible character in the Netflix show, and in this they turned her into Lady Kingpin, and she's the bestest Kingpin ever. She's girl boss Kingpin.
I tried to watch this show, and
I
I'm
remember
usually
it made you mad.
it did. I try really hard once I start something to make sure that I watch all of it. And I don't remember if it was like the third or the fourth episode. It was one of those two where I finally had to throw up my hands and say, I can't do this. I can't. I know enough to know this has no chance with me. um, and so I'm wondering. You had mentioned, I think, earlier today that you know what they do with these shows, that they've got short seasons. They shoot them at the same time and then break it up. Is that what happened here?
Well, no, they didn't shoot it at the same time, but they greenlit 18 episodes.
Yeah.
So they shot the first 9, and while they were airing, they were like, before the critical reception had even hit, they were shooting season 2.
That's unfortunate.
Well, guess what? They're doing it again, because before the critical reception of this fully hits, they're already filming season 3.
It's already been extended?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, they're filming it as we speak, and it actually looks like they're adapting one of my favorite Daredevil comic storylines of all time. And
The Devil in Cell Block D?
Yes, and I'm horrified to see how they're going to kill it.
How far into it are they now? How many episodes in?
Oh gosh, I don't even know, because after the first 2, I haven't watched beyond the first 2. I have to catch up to it.
Okay. The Daredevil Born Again rating situation highlights a larger issue across streaming. Hype doesn't guarantee staying power. Season 1 had the branding, the legacy, and the marketing push, but if the execution doesn't land, audiences move on fast. There's no waiting around for a show to find its footing anymore. Viewers decide quickly, and based on these numbers, Bendy decided this wasn't worth sticking with. Despite the drop, Marvel is still pushing forward with Season 3. That suggests confidence, or at the very least, commitment to the long-term plan. There are already signs the studio may pivot towards a more grounded street-level tone moving forward, leaning into what originally made Daredevil resonate with fans. But here's the reality. Once you lose half your audience, getting them back is a steep uphill battle. The Daredevil Born Again ratings decline isn't just a rough week, it's a warning for Disney Marvel. When a show drops this sharply between seasons and fails to even crack a basic Nielsen benchmark, it points to a deeper issue than timing or competition. Marvel built this as a major return. Instead, it's now facing a very real question. Was a comeback worth it, or did audiences already move on?
This show, it's a disaster. It really is. They killed Foggy in the first episode. We took that away. They took Matt's faith away from him. And they made it just another liberal, they made it one battle after another. They made it the Savant. They made it every other, liberal rage bait show that exists out there. And it's just Marvel refuses to learn its lesson. And it has to be taught the same costly lesson over and over and over again. And now we're hearing a ridiculous rumor right now that I don't believe for a second, that Hunter Schafer is being considered for Mystique. And that
I don't buy
sounds
that for a minute.
no, because we know what Hunter Schafer's people do. When they were when Daniel RPK reported that Hunter Schafer was going to be Zelda, I broke the story through my own sources that is 100% false. And it was Hunter Schafer's agents and PR firm that were they feed these stories to these leakers who are just so excited to run to the table with it because they want to go to Nintendo and be like, well, look how positive the conversation is around our client. Don't you think they should be Zelda? Like, no, absolutely not. That's why I don't believe the Mystique thing. Because Marvel's dumb. I don't think Marvel's that dumb.
I don't know. Every time that we say that, they seem to find ways to prove us wrong.
If they continue to double down on all this after all of the lessons that they are learning the hard way over and over and over again, then it is clear that they literally just don't care about making money.
Contrast this with Doomsday, because we get wildly mixed messages about what's going on with Doomsday.
Well, with Doomsday, they've completely abandoned the entire concept of the MCU. There's not one woman that is like front and center in the marketing of this movie. It's all Steve Rogers, Tony Stark as Doom, Thor. That's all we're really getting.
They're positioning it as though really all you needed to see was Endgame, and you can jump straight into.
It's not even that they're making it seem that way, Lorn. They said it.
So I guess my question is, I hate to ask this because it feels like, why would I even think? But do we think maybe Doomsday could be good?
I don't know if it'll be good. It's whether or not it'll make money. If it's the plot that was leaked, which I have every reason to believe that it is, because it matches up with things that like Nerdrotic heard. Then no, I don't think it could be any good.
All right,
but,
so
I hope I'm wrong. I would love to, I would love to be wrong on this.
I'm going to toss it to you in a different way.
All right.
Gary heard, right? He hasn't seen anything. Is that right?
He's heard from very reliable sources, from what I understand.
Okay. But were those sources giving him just information, or were they giving him impressions about what they felt about the material? The reason I ask is because there's a vast difference between reading something on the page and then seeing it when it's on the screen. I have read scripts that read dead, that read as terrible dialogue, but then you see the finished product and you go, oh, I hadn't envisioned it that way. I'm trying to play devil's advocate here. Is there a possibility that you could hear something that sounds bad when you hear it, but in the execution...
It's possible that, the fight scenes are going to be crazy and it's going to be epic in scale. But the one thing we didn't hear about in any of those leaks, though, was what's Sam Wilson doing? What's Captain Marvel doing? What these characters that they put all this time and effort into? We really heard nothing about them or what's going on with them. So it makes you wonder, are they actually do they have a big role in this? We know that Gambit fights Shang-Chi. But that's all I've ever heard about Shang-Chi in this.
I guess if I'm going to try to be optimistic about it, and I don't know that I am. I don't even know if I'm interested in seeing this, although obviously I will. I do want to see a cinematic Doctor Doom. I don't know that I want RDJ as Doctor Doom. It's hard for me. I know, but Doom excites me as a villainous character. Doom, I think, is a great character, and I think I don't know that they can handle them properly, but if they do, that's 50% of the game right there, in my opinion. If you actually pull off a successful Doom, then you might have altered the trajectory of this entire project.
Well, I mean, that's the one thing that we've never seen, right? Is a successful Doctor Doom on the big screen. We've seen two of them already through the Fantastic Four films that have all flopped. Um, well, I mean, the first one was a financial success, I believe, but Silver Surfer flopped. But Doom was everybody hated Doom in those first movies, and Doom was a nothing burger in the second one. So, yeah, we've never really gotten Doom done right. I mean, if you can really get Doom right, where he is the perfect merging of technology and magic, then that's incredible. Like it'll be amazing. But it's a
Will
big
there
if.
be Doom bots?
Oh, I'm sure there'll be Doom bots. Yeah, like that's going to be the putty patrollers that they have to fight all through it. Like,
Yep.
not
All
everyone's
right.
going to be fighting Doom.
Next up, we've got a story that will make you happy. James Gunn confirms that the Authority movie put on hold as DCU plans shift.
This may mean nothing. Like I just as long as he's
Really?
still there. Yeah, I mean like. There's nothing to whether or not things get canceled or announced. There's nothing to get excited for about DC.
Yeah,
Not
but
while he's there.
I'm reading this as a referendum on James himself because they had put this out as a major linchpin for the new DCU, and it's being canceled. And he's only got a year left on his contract, right?
Yeah.
I think this is signaling he's out.
I mean, it's possible.
You don't think so?
I have a hard time believing it. It's one of those things like I believe that he's not going to want to work with the Ellisons because he has massive TDS. So I believe that. I think it's very possible he either walks or gets fired or at least gets put into a much gets a lot more oversight over what he's doing, which honestly I think that if from the beginning he had oversight, maybe things would have been okay, but like when you let him just do whatever he wants to do, that's when things go completely off the rails. Um, I think that I think he's got to go, but the answer to that is not bring in the last guy that failed.
I I think both the studio and James are just going to wait the contract out and mutually decide not to continue.
It's
I
possible.
don't I don't think they're going to want the drama of a firing, and they're going to, I suspect, frame it as they're leaving with mutual respect and admiration for one another. But I think they've already made the decision. I don't think they're happy with what they've got with Supergirl.
Yeah.
I think they know that's going to be a flop. I think that means that he's on shaky ground with Man of Steel or Man of Tomorrow. What's the title?
Man of Tomorrow.
Man of Tomorrow. And I think that's all the runway he's got. Unless one of those movies is a hit, I think he's absolutely done.
Yeah. It's certainly possible. But again, the answer to that is not bring in the last guy that failed. I think that if they were to bring Snyder back, it would not be to take over DC. I think it would be to make his other two Justice League movies so that people shut the hell up.
Are you
Um,
actually thinking they're really considering that?
no, I'm saying that if there's any shot of him actually doing anything, I think that they would have him make his Justice League movies as animated films.
Oh, oh. Yeah, I don't think that satisfies anybody.
No,
All
it
right.
doesn't. It doesn't. But like,
So,
when does Warner Brothers in the business of that? Look, is it possible that he's not going to be handed the keys to DC back ever? That's not going to happen.
so let me ask kind of an out there question. Who would you want to handle DC under Warner Brothers?
Look, I think there's one guy who can drive a cinematic vision for DC, and one guy alone, and Hollywood's
Jeff
already
Johns?
canceled him, and it's Jeff Johns.
Yeah, I thought that was where you were going to go.
Johns is he is him and Chuck Dixon are the two greatest comic book writers of the modern age, and in my opinion. And Johns is also he's got the cinematic pedigree. He was Richard Donner's apprentice. So, like the guy knows what he's doing. The problem is nobody at Warner Brothers listened to him when he was the chief creative officer at DC, and then Kryborg got all up in his feelings about it because freaking because Johns wanted him to say booyah.
So I tend to agree with you. I don't think they'd go back to John's. I think whoever it is would have to be somebody that's in the movie industry. It would have to be an industry guy.
Hmm.
Do you have anybody from that side, not the comic side, but from the Hollywood side, that you would trust to take it on?
I mean, what John Favreau, but he wouldn't do it.
I don't get the impression he would be a DC guy anyway.
Yeah, I don't think so. I mean, look, maybe it doesn't need to be one guy. Like maybe it just needs to be a studio executive.
Uh, mm, nope, nope, too corporate.
Well,
Um,
yeah.
it's like, and you don't want a committee.
Honestly, dude, I have no idea who should do it because like nobody's been able to do it.
It seems strange too, because
Yeah.
they actually they have a wealth of great characters that people would actually love to see, and yet somehow they've made a hash of it every time that they try.
Warner Brothers has a really unique ability, a unique gift. They managed to make the worst possible decision in every conceivable
So,
situation.
all right, I'm gonna throw a facetious choice out there just to see what you say, because I haven't heard of him doing anything for a while, but oh, I know you're gonna hate this because you hate this guy.
You're gonna say Tim Burton.
I am gonna say Tim Burton.
In what universe would that be good?
It's just I'm trying to think of a dark horse pick, and it's like the thing is, whoever it is that does it has to
I,
be somebody, and this is why I always
I
argue.
already know. I already know. I could tell you who the worst possible person would be. You ready? And you're gonna
Go
agree with me. Taika Waititi.
ahead. Yes, yeah, but
That
I don't think
that is the darkest timeline.
he wouldn't be a DC guy either. The reason I said Burton, it's a facetious pick, but the reason that I don't want a studio exec and the reason I don't want a committee is that I'm going to argue the same thing I would argue for Star Wars. You need somebody who's a visionary, a guy with a singular vision. And Burton is a guy with a singular vision.
Yeah, he's
I
got
don't,
one vision that he puts into every movie. That's the same as James Gunn.
in a way, but weirdly, it's like, okay, I have such a weird relationship with Tim Burton in the sense that most of his stuff I don't like, but there's one or two pictures of his that I think are brilliant.
There's a
I
few that
I
I like. I mean, like there's a couple that I even like.
I actually think Batman '89 is a good Batman picture.
I do too.
I like the original Batman. I
But
hated
you
Batman
know what's so funny
Returns.
when Batman '89 came out? I think everybody was like, "Finally, it's not campy, it's serious." And you watch it now, and you're like, "This is so campy."
It's campy by today's standards, but it
Um,
wasn't Adam West.
no, no, it definitely wasn't Adam West, but I think he goes. So I like '89, and I'll raise you one. I like Batman Returns because I think Batman Returns goes off the rails in the most entertaining way possible.
I hated that movie. I I I have not seen that movie in probably 30 years, and I have not missed it. um, I don't know. I guess Michael Keaton, it's like he'd be too old to do it now. Okay, let's do this. Let's forget about who you want to do it. Let's say that we get the best of all possible timelines and that we get to do Batman Beyond. Michael Keaton is old Bruce.
Yes, 100% yes.
I actually think that
Um,
would be fun.
he'd have to play Bruce. He'd have to really take on a darker version of Bruce than we've ever seen him do before.
Yes, but I think he could do that. I don't think that would be a problem for him.
Because the Bruce, the Batman Beyond Bruce, is a miserable human being. Like he is just completely. He's just because now he's like Harrison Ford levels of grumpy, but like
I don't take it as being that bad.
no. So I mean, like think about it. Like his entire world was shattered. He is physically unable to be Batman anymore. And to him, there's no reason to. He has to look at the portrait of his parents above the mantle every day, and know that there's nothing he can do to go out there and break jaws. Um,
But I felt like he actually settled into being the man in the chair pretty well. He
Oh, he does.
becomes
No, and I think Terry is a perfect Batman. I think Terry is he because he's a different kind of Batman. It's kind of like he's almost like Batman and Nightwing merged together, right? And I like Terry a lot, and I think Will Friedle played him perfectly. It's yeah, I think that Michael Keaton as old Bruce would be amazing in something like that.
Do you remember that live action Batman Beyond short film that we got like a year ago?
Yes, I watched
I
it
st-
recently
I still love that, and
with
and
the Royal Flush
honestly,
Gang in it. Yeah.
I actually really think that's the direction they should go. That would be something. Honestly, one of the reasons is that there is a whole generation of people that remember and love that show, and it's a safe thing to try because if it doesn't work, you just don't do another one. You don't have to have a great big name. You can cast unknown actors. You can actually do it, I think, fairly low budget. But if it works, now you got a new franchise on your hands.
I agree. I agree. And you could run it alongside normal Batman movies. It could be an Elseworlds thing. The fact that they've never done this is maddening to me.
Why do
Like,
you think that is? What is the bias against Batman Beyond?
I have no idea, dude. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's maybe it's too much of an expense because it would have to be like a CGI city essentially. Because like you can't really like Neo Gotham is like its own kind of thing.
Like
Um,
they've never done that before, though.
I know, but still. Um, I don't know. I really don't know what their issue with it is. My only thing, because I was, but then part of me was like, I never want to see them do it because they'll make Terry McGinnis Terry with an I, and it'll be a girl.
Well, maybe. I don't know. There's got to be somebody inside Warner Brothers who would like to do this. So if anybody out there,
You
I
know,
know it's a long shot, but if you're an exec from Warner Brothers and you're listening to this broadcast, pitch it. Just see where you get with it.
you know who I would love to see them hand Warner Brothers to? Somebody who writes. I don't think he's done movies. Well, no, he has done some movies. Paul Dini.
Oh yeah. Yeah, you want authentic Batman? There you
You
go.
want authentic. You want DC in because he also did Justice League Unlimited, Superman. I think that Paul Dini could put together a phenomenal DC universe on film. He created Batman Beyond. He created Harley Quinn. Like I mean, talk about overexposed characters though.
Yeah, he was the story consultant on all the Arkham games too, and that
He was.
immediately
He
for me is
was.
like, okay, you're the guy.
I don't understand why no one's ever let him write a Batman movie. I mean, he Mask of the Phantasm was his, and everybody loves Mask of the Phantasm.
Yep, I agree.
What's not to love?
All right, we do have some more super chats to get to, so we'll go through those real quick. We've got from Ken and Barnes for 5. Evening, gents. Chris and Ellen,
Film
a
threat.
film threat out of the theater reaction to The Devil Wears Prada 2 was that they laughed and weren't bored. By the way, go Spurs, go tonight. I can't believe it took me that long to figure out that we were talking about Chris Gore and Alan Eng. I
Yeah.
feel kind of bad now. Snark for $1.99. Favorite Star Wars book?
I mean, Revenge of the Sith is my favorite book, period, let alone Star Wars book. But if you were to take Revenge of the Sith out of the equation, it would either be the Bane trilogy or it would be Tales from Jabba's Palace.
Ooh, that's a neat pick. Um,
I read Tales from Jabba's Palace so much as a kid.
I don't know that I could choose. That's like
Mhm.
asking to choose your favorite child. It's hard for me not to mention The Last Command because I think that it's got one heck of a climax. I love the end of that novel. But then I think about the X-Wing series, and it's like, but I love those. you know. Then there's Shadows of the Empire, and so those always come up when I talk about books. So I would say it'd have to be one of those in that vein.
I mean,
Uh,
you need to make a movie out of the courtship of Princess Leia so you can get Zorba the Hutt, right?
let's not do
What if
that.
Jabba the Hutt had a beard?
They have done some weird things with huts. You remember the shell huts?
No, I don't remember those.
Okay. In the A.C. Crispin Han Solo trilogy, you remember Eulalia, the Paradise Snare?
Mm-hmm.
The shell huts were a different clan of Hutts that wore basically snail shells on their back as armored.
Huh.
Kind of. You don't remember the shell Hutts? Yeah,
I don't.
they've had
Yeah, it's
all.
been a long time.
Yeah, there's been shell Hutts. We had the Gladiator Hut in Beldorian the Hut, and now we're getting that apparently with Rada in the Mandalorian and Grogu.
Hmm.
So there have been ripped Hutts in the past as well. Gracchus from the comic series when they restarted Star Wars, who was also a gladiator. So yeah, that's kind of an interesting bit of Hutt history that we haven't
Yeah,
really talked about. Is that they had a gladiatorial tradition.
Zorba the Hutt always made me laugh though because he was just Jabba the Hutt with a beard.
Yeah, but
I was like, I can't imagine Hutts having facial hair.
you start getting into that stuff though, and we got to start talking about Trioculus and the glove of Darth Vader and all of that stuff too. So you got to be careful about what sources we're talking about.
Yeah.
Snark for 9.99. Michael Jackson was the first big target for media. Trump the current for different reasons. I'll love his music and talent regardless. Cosby can piss off. Tennille the 10th for 5. Could it be as simple as jealousy about Michael's success as an artist and bitterness about the movie being another example of non-woke selling well?
Definitely was another example of non-woke selling well because they don't lean into the race stuff, and I thought they were going to. There's one scene where like MTV wouldn't play Billie Jean because he's a black artist, and like Mike Myers as the head of CBS has to like put his foot down about it, and it was like that's a real thing that happened, but yeah, it never goes to a woke place though. Like it never, it, like I did see one funny thing though. They were like the reason why the woke media doesn't like the movie is there wasn't enough PDF file in it for them because that's what they want. It's what they like.
That's a that's a really dark take.
Yeah, I think it was a joke, but
Yep. And to Neil for 2. Might explain why this butt hurt seems so personal.
it does seem very personal.
That's all we got for now, folks. I think we're right about the time where we can get into our main topic tonight, which is the legacy of Boba Fett.
Yeah.
And the reason I wanted to talk about this, I mentioned in the opening, is that I've been gearing up to get ready for The Mandalorian and Grogu when it comes up. So I have been rewatching The Mandalorian season 1 and 2. And right now I'm in the middle of the Book of Boba Fett. And I had completely forgotten some of the weirder stuff in this show. And it really hit me when I watched it this time. It's like, boy, this goes off the rails in some really interesting ways. But then I got to thinking about all of the various origin stories for
Hmm.
Boba Fett and all the different versions of him there have been. And I thought it would be a fun discussion for tonight. So, Marv, this is your favorite character. Uh, Go off for a little bit. Tell me about why and what draws you to him.
Boba Fett was fascinating because he was so cool, right? He was, you never saw him freak out. You never saw him. The only time anyone, ever gets the better of him is when he falls into the Sarlacc pit in Return of the Jedi. He doesn't do much, but he makes an impression. And that striking helmet was the first time we'd ever seen it. And they built such lore around him, man. If you were into the EU, you started to see the stories that came out around him. And then didn't he set a record for action figures being sold, like he was a marketing like machine.
Oh, it wouldn't surprise me. I don't know any of the stats around that, but he's always been toyetic, and that was
Yeah,
before they had the recall on the backpack rocket.
right. So did that just sell for like an obscene amount of money?
Yeah, they had one that I think was, if I remember right, I think it was actually still in package, which is
Hmm.
unheard of.
Yeah.
So,
But man, it was like I don't know. He was just beyond cool looking, and he was mysterious, and like there were just like I remember they used to do a stage show at Hollywood Studios. Um, for Star Wars, they would bring all the live characters out on. It was like they'd show a bunch of movie clips. They bring the live characters out on stage. It was basically like they were vamping while they were building Galaxy's Edge, trying to have as much Star Wars in the park as possible. But Boba Fett was one of them. And one time, I'm walking behind the stage, and Boba Fett is standing there, and he's looking at like, and he's not on the stage, so he's like backstage, but people can see him, and he's looking out over the crowd, and he's got his arms kind of like this, and then all of a sudden he just goes, and when he does this on the stage, a pyro went off, and I was like, that's Boba Fett. That's the coolness factor. And then I realized that's the thing, because then I saw videos of him doing it also, and I'm like, oh, this is just a thing that he does. He was, Boba Fett. There are characters in Star Wars that are criminally underdeveloped, but they look so cool, and they give that aura on screen, and so you start to try to build lore around them. In the original trilogy, it was Boba Fett. In the prequels, before he came back in the Clone Wars, it was Darth Maul. And in the sequels, they tried it with Captain Phasma, and it didn't work.
It did not.
Yeah, they thought she was going to be their Boba Fett, and she wasn't. Who would have been there? Would have been their Boba Fett? Boba Fett. And you know what he was in the EU was something that we never really had in the movies, which was a real foil and nemesis for Han Solo. And I love they have abandoned the idea of the rivalry with Solo in, modern Star Wars. But like, I loved like the idea that he went and saw the all human free for all on Jubilar and saw this punk kid in there fighting, and he didn't fight with honor, but he won the whole thing, and just developed this hatred of him because of it. And it just follows them through all of this time. I loved that. That's why, like, when I saw Solo, I was positive Boba Fett was going to be in that movie. And I kept waiting the entire movie for him to show up. And he never did. So, but I mean, there are so many stories, like, to the point where, like, he goes out like such a, pansy, I guess you could say, in Return of the Jedi, that people were like, no, this is not how it happens. And they had to write a story to get him out of the Sarlacc in Tales from Jabba's Palace and, continue on, because there was no way you could do an EU without Boba Fett.
See, I have some differing takes on Boba Fett a little bit. It's like, I go back and forth on this, because you talk about the rivalry between Han and Boba. And I agree that was there in the old EU. But I always felt that it was a little bit overplayed. And I'll go into the reason why. I don't know if this is your read on Boba Fett or not. But he's based on, I mean, he was intended to be Clint Eastwood in the Star Wars universe. He was the guy that walked and moved slowly, had all of the cool gear, barely spoke.
Down to the point where when he walked, you heard the spurs. I mean,
you heard this. But my take on it was always, that's actually the wrong explanation for the character. He's not Clint Eastwood. He's Angel Eyes. I actually saw, now that's ultimately who they made Cad Bane. But part of the reason I had this opinion is Boba Fett is best. He's kind of like Vader in the sense that you think you want to see him do stuff, but most of the time you don't, because what's in your head is always going to be better than what's on the screen. And the moment you show him doing the stuff that's not what you're imagining, you're going to be disappointed. My take on Boba Fett was always, look, a bounty hunter's a skip tracer. It's a person that goes and grabs somebody in a jurisdiction where you don't have any authority and brings him back to stand trial. And you'll take bounties that are either alive or dead. But it always stuck in my head that Vader told him specifically, no disintegrations. And that tells me that Boba Fett is worse than most bounty hunters. He doesn't want the live bounties. He wants the dead ones. I always saw Boba as a guy who would shoot you in the back. I always saw him as a guy who, he's got a reputation. But it's not because he's doing all this fancy stuff. It's because he's doing the easy work, the clever work. He's actually probably smarter than the other bounty hunters in that sense. But I never saw him as an honorable guy. which is why I have such a problem with what they've done with him in the Book of Boba Fett.
Yeah. Well, no, there was a sense of honor in the EU. Um, like,
Are
there's
you going
there's
from the Jaster Muriel origin? Is that where you're pulling
yeah,
from?
a little bit, yeah. But like there's a vignette. I think I don't remember if it was in Tales of Jabba's Palace or Tales of the Bounty Hunters, but Jabba sends Leia to his room, and
That's Tales of the Bounty Hunters.
yes, and Leia is like, if you come near me, and he's just like, relax, like I'm not gonna touch you, and she's just like, why? And he's just like, because it's not right. And like that, I was like, that's Boba Fett to me. Like, it doesn't need to be like the strict code of honor that he had in, you know, the Book of Boba Fett, but it's also not like he's not going to, you know, have
So
his way with Leia.
this is where we got to start getting into the exhibits. So depending on what you want to call the origin of Boba Fett, there's this.
Yes.
And this is when they were doing the tests of the costume behind the scenes, and this may be Ben Burt in that outfit at that point. I
Mm-hmm.
don't recall, but the first thing that we heard about Mandalorians is in one of the books that came out for the marketing of The Empire Strikes Back, where it referenced Boba Fett being one of the Mandalorian super commandos. And that's where the original name for Mandalorian came from. Um, and there were always kind of rumors about what the super commandos were. Uh, Later, when they did the prequels, obviously this morphed into him becoming the template for the clone army, or
Mm-hmm.
Django becoming the template for the clone army. And they sort of took the Super Commando story and folded that into Rebels. I actually like the white costume quite a bit. It's a different look. I
Yeah.
like it because it's clean and I think it's a cool image. But I think ultimately what they did was better. Now, Boba actually appeared before the films in a couple of parades, weirdly. But his official introduction was here
Yep.
on the Star Wars Holiday Special. Now, what's the first thing you notice about this depiction?
He's got the Mandalorian's gun.
And his armor. That's
Yeah.
his that's his Mark One armor, right down to the coloration of the breastplate and everything else. He's got the Ambon phase pulse rifle. In fact, he fights off a dinosaur with it electrically the same way that they do in the first episode of season one. So,
Which really just continues to prove my point that the Mandalorian was supposed to be a Boba Fett show.
well, this kind of goes into the evolution, which is why I wanted to get here. Is that you've got his first depiction in the movies, in The Empire Strikes Back. You've got him in Return of the Jedi, and there's some slight
So cool.
differences in the costume,
Yeah, the helmet shape.
yeah, the
The helmet
helmet
became more
shape,
angular.
the belt changes a little bit. There's a
Hmm.
couple other cosmetic differences in colors and things,
Well, you
but
got to think with
generally,
all of the money that he made from giving in Han Solo, that you know.
it's pretty close in both versions. But after
Well,
that,
but this was also before we decided that Mandalorians wear Beskar, and Beskar can't be, you know, hit by blasters or even lightsabers. And I'm like, this is one heck of a retcon.
well, I mean, Beskar existed in the old EU for quite a long time.
But
That
Boba
that
Fett didn't
was
have it.
I mean, this. Okay, are we going to get into the debate about whether he's a Mandalorian or not?
No.
Because I I disagree with that. I think that he is wearing Beskar. You think it's Durasteel?
Yeah, I didn't. I never thought it was anything like special like that.
Okay. Um, the the actual original reorigin of Boba Fett, or the reintroduction of him, was Dark Empire. And they brought him back, and I thought it was
Hmm.
actually an elegant explanation. They didn't waste a lot of time on it. They just said the Sarlacc family somewhat indigestible, which actually makes quite a bit of sense.
Yeah.
Now, this is probably another reason why you like the Tales from Jabba's Palace, because I think that's the one that dealt with the story of him in the
Yep.
Sarlacc.
Yeah, where you have there's a guy trapped in the Sarlacc who's like telepathic essentially, and he can't get out of the Sarlacc, but he could control the Sarlacc to an extent. and like basically the Sarlacc is like his kingdom almost. And yeah, it was really interesting.
Next, we finally got him reintroduced in The Mandalorian, Season 2. Now, this is where things, I think, really start to get interesting.
Everything I ever wanted.
Go into it. Tell us why.
I mean, it's you got to actually see him kicking ass. Like we never got to actually see him throw down before. And in this, like we full on see it. Like we you know, when he grabs the one stormtrooper in a headlock and then punches him and then hits the rocket launcher and sends him flying, hits the rockets out of the knee thing, hits the main rocket into the one that takes out the other one. I mean, like that is Boba Fett to a T. It's exactly what we thought. Now, retroactively, I hate the Book of Boba Fett even more because of this scene.
Which is kind of where I wanted to get to. This is where I wanted to steer the conversation. Because
there is a massive logic gap between The Mandalorian Season 2 and the Book of Boba Fett.
Robert Rodriguez directed the episode in which he reappeared in The Mandalorian,
Yeah.
and also directed the episode where it was the first episode of the Book of Boba Fett. Now, obviously, Robert understood the assignment in The Mandalorian, and we'll get to it. There's more we got to get to first.
I mean, you know what the plot hole is, right?
Which one are you referring to? Because
the plot
there are
hole,
many.
the fact that he's kicking ass and taking names in Mando, but in Book of Boba Fett, he's still so messed up from the Sarlacc that he has to be in the back to tank every 2 seconds and can't fight anyone because he's so hurt.
I don't read it that way. But that's because I'm focusing on other things. It's when we get to the Book of Boba Fett, there's a lot I want to talk about because I'm going through it right now. I haven't finished it. I have a theory about the Book of Boba Fett, although when we talk about it tonight, it's going to be incomplete because I have forgotten some parts of it. This is a theory that I had back when it originally aired. But we'll get to it.
Would you like my unpopular opinion about this right here that you have on the screen? I like this costume.
I actually do too. I like all of the
I like the black.
I take it back. There's one version of it where he's got kind of a almost a kilt style thing. That's not this version here in this picture. I don't like that one, but I do like this. I actually like the reforged armor. I like the color scheme. The one part about it I don't like is the belt. I don't like the belt.
It's like a bandolier almost, isn't it?
Yeah, it's got a bunch of shells on it. I don't like the buckle. He has had different versions of the belt that had shells on them, but usually it was pouches. I prefer the look with pouches. I hate the buckle. I think the buckle is the thing that I dislike the most. But I don't have a problem with the retheming. I actually think that makes sense for him. But here is the thing that really gets to me. I had completely forgotten about this.
About the sand people?
No. About the lizard. Do you remember the lizard?
They put the lizard up as... I completely forgot about that too.
So did I. I got there and I went, oh my gosh, how did I forget this? I shared a tweet the other night that was, hey, you remember that time in the Book of Boba Fett when Boba Fett did lizard? Yeah. Those were wild times, man. They had Boba Fett snort a lizard and go on a vision quest on Tatooine to find a tree in a desert so that he could make a gaffy stick.
Yeah, it's a little weird.
So, this is the most weird thing I think that has ever happened in Star Wars.
Yeah.
100%. When you ever came up with theoretical Boba Fett stories in your mind, did you ever imagine him going on a visions quest after snorting a lizard for sand people?
You know what? Not a lizard, maybe a frog. No, I'm kidding. Like there was no ingesting or snorting of reptiles. I don't like it at all. It's not what anybody wanted to see him do. Nobody wanted to see Boba Fett become the mayor of a small town. Or like, and nobody, I don't think anyone was also begging to humanize the Tusken Raiders.
Okay, so this is where we're going to get into some contentious
Oh,
territory.
real quick before we do that, um, I remembered my major beef with why I never thought it was Beskar.
Okay,
The dent in the
because of the
helmet.
dent. Yeah,
Yes.
I knew it was going to be the dent.
Yep.
Um,
That shouldn't have happened because the dent is from Cad Bane.
well, that's the explanation now. Um, so I guess I have a weird take on the Book of Boba Fett as I'm going through it, and I always had a
Hold on. I have to. He is not dreaming and recalling events of the Mandalorian season 2, people. Because they're saying, like, oh, well, he's dreaming and recalling events. Those events all happen after he gets out of the Sarlacc. The thing that is supposed to have messed him up to the point where he needs to be in the back to tank now. He gets out of the Sarlacc, then he's with the Tuskens, then Mandalorian season 2 happens, then the Book of Boba Fett happens, and in the Book of Boba
correct.
Fett, in the Book of Boba Fett present story is when he has to be in the bacta tank because his Sarlacc wounds are still so bad. So he got through the Sand People, and he got through Mandalorian season 2 with no issues. But then I don't understand where this, like, oh well, no, he's just recalling events in the tank. Like, no, it's all after the Sarlacc pit. It's all after Return of the Jedi. And the
That is
Sarlacc
correct.
pit, yeah, the Sarlacc pit. So I don't misunderstand this. You misunderstand this.
Yeah, and just to put an explicit point on it, the reason for that is, and this is the part that actually I disagree with you a bit about the Sand People, because the story that they have told is that he was in the Sarlacc. He gets out of the Sarlacc using his armor, but passes out because he's so badly injured when he gets out. And as he's passed out on the sand, Jawas come across him and strip him of his armor, put it in their sandcrawler, and take off. So
Yep.
now he's defenseless. Later, Cobb Vanth meets those Jawas, barters with them to take the armor. That's how he ends up with it in The Mandalorian. Boba Fett's still passed out on the sand. Then the Sand People come, and
Right.
they basically enslave him and take him off. And later he gets integrated into the tribe because he fights off a desert monster, essentially. So after the Sand People are slaughtered, Boba Fett is alone again, and he realizes he has no resources. He's got to take back the Slave One, and he's got to get his armor back. And he thinks the armor is inside the Sarlacc, and he finds out it's not after he
So
gets.
dumb. So dumb.
Okay,
Like, why would he think it's still in the Sarlacc?
Um, well, I would probably think it was still in the Sarlacc in that situation. Um, they
And
don't
what was he gonna do with the ship? Fly it into the Sarlacc?
No, I don't think that was his intention. I think it was sort of kind of what he did, in the sense that he hovered above it. He's shining the light down into it to see what he can see down there. Then he was going to rappel down there, which is ultimately what he ends up doing, and discovers it's not there. The reason that I think that he would think that the armor is down there is that the Sarlacc is acidic, and that's where all of his injuries come from. And I suspect that in his delirious state, he thinks that he shed the armor while he was getting out. And so he thinks that he discarded it down there. He doesn't know the job was stripped it off him. Um, and that's the last place he saw it. So that's where he thinks it is.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, I don't have a problem with the Book of Boba Fett in the sense that I totally buy the Jawas coming across him and stripping of his armor. That is exactly what Jawas would do. There was a massive battle there. They're going to be there for all of the salvage. They find him there. They find the armor. Totally buy them stripping him of it and taking off. I also believe that the Sand People could stumble across him and that they would take him into their service. I even don't really have a problem with Boba joining the Sand People, because in a way, there's a lot of parallels between the Sand People and the Mandalorian society. They're
Yeah, I
family
agree.
oriented. They're a warrior culture. He would have felt some kinship with them in that way. But my conception of Boba Fett is that where they first go wrong is when he offers to help the other prisoner get loose of his bonds. Do you want me to free you? You know, he keeps offering to help him escape. Um, he talks way too much. Tamira Morrison himself complained of that. Um, and as you continue to go on with Boba throughout the story, when he runs into the mods complain there's no work. Well, then you'll work for me now, and I'm going to employ you. And with the watermonger, he tells him that you're charging too much money. He institutes socialist policies and says you're going to lower your prices or you're not going to sell here, which is exactly what would happen in New York. And that watermonger would then go to Mos Eisley, which doesn't help anybody in town. So if he's the daimyo of this territory, he's going to be a pretty lousy one.
Right.
Even worse, it's I actually kind of like the idea of the story that Boba's trying to figure out how to run his territory. He believes that he has captured it. He took out Bib Fortuna. He now thinks that he owns Jabba's territory. I like the idea that there's a dispute with the twins, who are Jabba's cousins. They think that they have a claim, but in actuality, the Pikes are the ones who have decided they're going to take over that territory, and the Pikes at this point are so mighty that even the Deciligic clan is not going to make a play for it.
That always bugged me too. Like with the Pikes, I kept being like, oh, I can't wait for the real, like, the real villain to show up. And no, it was just the Pikes the whole time.
Well, I agree with that part from a storytelling standpoint. I don't have a problem with it in the sense that, yeah, I believe the Pikes would try and move in if they saw a power vacuum. The part that I dislike is when Boba is trying to figure out, how do I deal with this? First, he thinks it's the mayor that has targeted him with the Order of the Night Wind.
Mm-hmm.
And the mayor tells him, why don't you go to the sanctuary and start asking around about what you need to know? And that's when he encounters the twins. And he thinks the twins have sent them. And in fact, the twins did. And later they send Black Cursetin after him and do all of that stuff. But ultimately, Boba tries to approach the other families. He approaches the Aqualish. He approaches the Trandoshans. He approaches another family. I don't remember which one it is, but trying to convince them all that we need to work together despite this uneasy alliance to throw the Pikes off of the territory, because otherwise we're all going to be forced out. Nobody takes him seriously. Nobody offers to help. Boba doesn't force them to comply. He's already said, I'm going to rule with respect. No, Boba, you're not. This is not what a crime boss does. A crime boss, you keep your people in line. Why does Boba want to be a crime boss? The whole time he's talking to Fennec about how he is so sick of working for other people who are dumber than he is and who are going to get him killed. Well, gee willikers, dude, you've talked to the mayor, you've talked to Garsa Fwip at the sanctuary, you've talked to all of the families, and you still think you're going to go it alone against the Pikes?
So the way he's trying to act is more like a mayor than a crime lord. So let's say he were to follow in the footsteps of an entirely fictional organization like the Mafia. In the neighborhoods in these fictional stories, the people loved the fictional Mafia because they protected, they provided. But you know what you didn't do? You didn't cross them. When you borrowed money, and if you borrowed money from them, suddenly you're not protected anymore. You owe them that money back, or you're going to get your legs broken. That's what I think everyone kind of thought this was going to be. Like, yes, they protect the neighborhood. They keep the neighborhood functional. If there's a problem, they straighten it out. That's why businesses paid them protection money. It was, nobody will mess with you because they know you're protected by us. And it's as much protection as it is exploitation.
Yeah, and the thing is, I think they started off doing that. They start off with him collecting tribute. even though he really doesn't have an organization. The only person he's got is Fennec Shand and the Major Domo droid. So it's like he doesn't really have any force projection. And the idea that Boba Fett is going to leave Jabba's palace and wander Mos Espa while meeting with the local townsfolk and collecting tribute by himself is also a bad plan. You
Yeah,
don't
no.
send the Dawn out.
Yeah, the Don's not doing that. He's keeping his hands
So
clean.
this is the ridiculousness of the show. Now, my theory about the show, and I don't remember the specifics of it, and I'm hoping I will remember as I get through it. I don't think the show is actually in the order that the show was intended to be.
Okay.
First of all, you've got two Mandalorian episodes that get dropped into the middle of it. So I think there's missing content there. But it's also that I think they wildly swapped the chronology of the episodes. And I don't remember why it is that I thought that, but I know that I had pieced it together where I think there was a more logical story that was told, but I think they changed everything after they fired Gina. And so I think there was a more logical story that existed, but it's definitely not what we got.
I mean, I had heard the rumor that I had always heard was that like Filoni and or at least Favreau had kind of set down a story for this, and then when he turned his back, everything got changed.
Well, I mean, this is why I think it's like there has to be a contrast drawn between the Boba Fett of the Mandalorian and the Boba Fett of the Book of Boba Fett. That coda at the end of the season 2 finale promised something we never got. And
Hmm.
it was obvious in those episodes of The Mandalorian, they got who Boba Fett was. They understood who Boba Fett was. They
Well, who
gave us the
that
Boba Fett
was
we wanted.
that was Favreau.
You know what I think it ultimately may have been? The fire spray system
Gunship.
patrol craft.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I wonder if maybe Disney wasn't fully aware of what the name of the ship was. And when they found out, they went, "Oh no, we can't do this." Because Boba Fett straight up just becomes a philanthropist. He's wanting to help everybody that he comes across. And his explanation for all of this makes no sense. It just,
Well, I mean, Tatooine has come a long way since the time when Anakin Skywalker was a fire spray gunship on the planet.
I
Are we
just,
really gonna pretend this is a word that's not used anywhere in the Star Wars universe? It's used constantly.
do you think, I mean, Tim has come out and said that he was objecting to some of what they were doing internally. All of the rumors are saying that he's been told he's been put on the shelf. What do you think he thinks about all this?
I'm sorry, you have to repeat that question because something so stupid was said in the chat that I just got a nosebleed.
What do you think Tamira Morrison thinks of what happened in the Book of Boba Fett?
I have no idea.
Really? No opinion whatsoever.
I really don't. I really don't know.
I know that he said he felt they made him talk way too much. And I know he loves this character. In fact, one of the amazing things, he gets so enthusiastic about it back when Jeremy Bulloch was still alive. Him and Jeremy were at a convention together with Daniel Logan, and they were all together to do some kind of an interview
Hmm.
about Boba and Jango Fett. And I felt kind of bad because Tamira was constantly talking over Jeremy Bulloch just because he was so excited to be talking about the character.
Right.
Um, and that's one of the tragedies here is that I know he actually does love this character,
He does.
and the fact that they do seem to have put him on the shelf, I think is a tragedy. Um, did you want to go into because I know we've been focusing on the Book of Boba Fett. I know that you really liked that story about Boba Fett that was the original. I shouldn't say the original. the the Tales of the Bounty Hunter's potential origin for Boba Fett, which was Jaster Mareel,
Jaster Mareel, yeah, in
and,
the ugly young man in the jail cell.
and how that later got retconned and who Jaster Mareel is now. Do you want to go into that at all?
Who is Jaster Mareel now? I
Oh,
don't
you
know
don't.
if I don't think I know that.
Oh, you don't know this. Okay. Um, So I should talk a little bit about who Jaster Mareel was in Tales of the Bounty Hunters, and it does
Right.
start with this character in a jail cell who we learn is Boba Fett, but his real name was supposedly Jaster Mareel, and he was a journeyman protector of Conquered Dawn. And this was kind of like a lawman figure, but he is a particularly, let's call him almost like a religious zealot in his application of his morals. Um, and later on, there were rumors that, in fact, before the prequels came out, that they were going to open on Conquered Dawn, and later on, Conquered Dawn got changed in Rebels to Concordia. And the Journeyman Protectors now hail from Concordia. But supposedly Boba Fett was this Jaster Mareel character. Later, when they changed the origins of Boba Fett, there was a story that was centered around Jango Fett, which was in a comic book, and I don't remember what it was called, but it was literally a Jango Fett comic book, and it dealt with his induction into the Mandalorians as a foundling,
Hmm.
and he had been adopted by a Mandalorian clan that was run by Jaster Mareel. So Jaster Mareel was essentially Jango Fett's adopted father. And then
Which is
when
why Boba
Jango
would assume his name while he's in prison.
Correct. And in fact, if you remember the scene in where they reintroduced him in Mandalorian season 2, at the end of that episode where he gets the armor, he pushes a button on his gauntlet saying that his chain code is encoded in his armor, showing that it belonged to Django and then to him. But there are three names that are included on there, and somebody translated it, and the third name was Jaster Mareel.
Oh, that's
So
interesting.
so Jaster would technically be Boba Fett's grandfather, if you want to put it that way, his adoptive grandfather.
Yeah. Yeah. That I like that. That actually makes sense. That's a retcon that actually works. Um, yeah, I mean, and there was also a Boba Fett young adult novel series set between episodes 2 and 3, and they actually have Grievous in the final book of it, and before episode 3 ever came out. So it was a little bit more like early Grievous. It's ah man, like what could have been, right? Like I think that the idea of the Mandalorian, if it were a Boba Fett show, and how Boba Fett is being has been paid to ferry this Jedi child and knows exactly what it is, and you know, and you could explore the fact that Boba Fett harbors a hatred for the Jedi because a Jedi killed his father. You know, there's a lot of meat on that bone that you could have played with, and they just decided they didn't want to do it. I had heard rumor that Mandalorian was conceived as a Boba Fett show, and KK didn't want that. And the I think the proof of that is that everything Din Djarin is what we thought Boba Fett was.
Kind of. I actually disagree with you, but that's because The Mandalorian was in development at the same time as the Boba Fett movie and the Obi-Wan movie.
Mm-hmm.
But then Solo happened, and they radically changed their plans.
So that first scene with the I can bring you in warm or I can bring you in cold, like that's a Boba Fett scene.
I agree. It's what we imagine Boba Fett to be. And this actually goes to another thing. I don't like what they did with Boba Fett in the Clone Wars. I would rather not know anything about young Boba Fett during this period. I thought they made him kind of a whiny brat idiot. Um, I don't want to know any of that stuff. I don't like it's like I don't like that he's got daddy issues with Cad Bane. I don't like any of that stuff. Although
Well, Cad
I did
Bane Cad Bane. I always felt Cad Bane existed to be ultimately be killed by Boba Fett.
Well, maybe. I don't know.
Because like I always thought that by the end of the Clone Wars, Boba Fett will kill Cad Bane to become the greatest bounty, because Cad Bane was the greatest bounty hunter, and then Boba Fett becomes the greatest bounty hunter. But if Cad Bane is still out there, how is Boba Fett the greatest bounty hunter in the galaxy?
Yeah, I suppose. I just I think that the reason that I'm bringing this up is that I feel that the ruination of Boba Fett started before we ever got to what Disney did with him. I actually felt that they were long down that path, even in the Clone Wars. I didn't
Mm-hmm.
like the idea that he was hanging out with Cad Bane and Aura Singh and High Singer and all of those guys. It's like I just don't. Oh, one of the things you said you wanted to talk about was Boba Fett and Dengar.
I love those books. Those books are so good. Where basically when Boba Fett gets out of the Sarlacc, he's
You,
basically like,
you,
passed out on the dunes, and he's found by Dengar and his wife, who's was it Mila?
you're
What
talking
was her
about the
name?
KW Jeter books, right?
Yes, I loved those books, man.
I hated them, but go on. It's like
Really? No, what'd you hate about him?
I felt that this was written by a guy who knew nothing about Star Wars. Do you
Mm.
remember Kudar Mubat?
That sounds really familiar.
It was in those books. This was
Yeah.
the sort of I would describe him as a void spider. He was in a web that was out in space.
Yes.
Yes, Kudar Mubat. It's like it's like I couldn't stand it, but I did like the relationship with Dengar. I did like those parts of him.
I mean, I was a wide-eyed teen who just wanted anything Boba Fett. Yeah, I thought that it made Dengar a very interesting character. They've done a couple of AI films, like they did one specifically that is like in canon with those books. Like they mention Dengar's wife and everything like that. So
I haven't seen those, so you'll have to send them my way.
yeah.
Do you want to go into Boba Fett in games or other media at all, or
Well, I mean, so Django had one of my favorite Star Wars games of all time, which was Star Wars Bounty Hunter, which at the time I thought was phenomenal. Now, like I loved in Bounty Hunter was such a fun game. Like you could literally like walk around the levels and like scan people to see if they had a bounty on them, and if they did, you could take them in.
I never played it, but it did get remastered a couple of years ago by Aspire, and so I've
Yeah,
kind of thought about picking it up.
yeah, I have the remastered version. I mean, it doesn't really hold up well compared to like a lot of modern day games, but it was also not an easy game at all. Like it was a very difficult game, but it fills in a lot of the gaps before episode two. And yeah, that was amazing. But like in games, I mean, so he was playable in Masters of the Terrascasi. Um, and he was I'm trying to like he makes an appearance, makes a cameo in um Jedi Survivor, and then he is a boss fight in the DLC for Force Unleashed. But that's all the game appearances I remember.
The one I always think of is Dark Forces. It's he is the boss of level 10, I think, which is on Imperial Center. And what I remember about it is just that he comes flying in on the jetpack and he's constantly moving in the air, shooting rockets at you constantly.
Yeah.
And I remember scared the crap out of me as a kid. Now you use the right weapon against him and it's not really a big deal. But back then I just thought that was an awesome cameo that he made. Um, do you have any thoughts on the retconning once we got to the prequels of the voice? Because now everybody had to sound like Tim.
Yeah. I understood the need for it because they decided to go that route, but I was like, I don't know, man. I was like, why does Boba Fett need to be a clone? Why couldn't he just been his actual son? I didn't like retconning them because I loved Boba Fett's original voice.
I did too. I think the reason they went the cloning route, I mean, it doesn't explain why Django cloned himself to have a son, but
I could see
they
that because Django wants to pass on his knowledge and his legacy.
Well, if you're okay with that, then I think it's just that they wanted. I think they looked at the white armor, and I think they looked at the stormtroopers, and they needed an origin for the stormtroopers, and so they went, okay, the source of the clone troopers is Django. So, to me, it's like I remember thinking at the time when we found this out, that's kind of strange. I'm not sure I like the idea of another Fett. I had an issue with Boba Fett having a dad because you
Mhm.
don't imagine that, you know? But once I got to thinking about the logic behind it, it's like, okay, I don't have so much a problem with that. I have a much bigger problem with the fact that the Republic never bothered to figure out where exactly did these clone troopers come from,
Nobody cared. Nobody
especially when
cared.
it's like Dooku flat out says, it's like you've got a Sith Lord in the Senate and you've got this bounty hunter that was hired to be the source, and it's like Obi-Wan should have tilted. It's like, I just dealt with a bounty hunter that was trying to assassinate the queen. It
Yeah,
seems
well,
like,
yeah, these clone troopers all look an awful lot like he did because he sees Django's face. I will
yeah,
say that Django Obi-Wan fight in the rain, I was like
yes,
amazed by that fight when I was a
me
kid
too. I still love
because
it.
I do too. It was the first time we ever saw a Jedi actually like punch and kick.
Yep.
Like Obi-Wan goes to fists with him. And
I I like
yeah.
the fact that Django immediately, I mean, he uses that jetpack. He is
Hmm.
making the fight vertical. He's trying to take away all the advantages. And it looked great at the time. And I think it still holds up pretty well.
Yeah, I agree. I agree.
Anyway,
I very much like it. But yeah, I mean, it was what it was. They had to put he sold so much merch that they had to put him in the prequels. There was in the Robot Chicken Star Wars episode 3, you follow 3 different characters in that one. It's Palpatine, who's the main character in it, and there's Gary the Black Stormtrooper, and then there's Boba Fett. And when Palpatine gives the like the intro, they show like Boba Fett like holding Django's head and Geonosis, and he goes, "We're contractually obligated to follow the story of this dumb kid. That's what happens when you sell the most action figures. Way to go, fanboys!"
well, it's true. And SFX Sabertooth Raptor is saying, don't forget about Shadows of the Empire. Yeah, and that Shadows is actually one of my favorite Star Wars stories. And part of that is just because I loved the idea that they decided they were going to tell. It was the first interquel. It was the first story that was allowed to be told during the time frame of the movies. It was the
Mm-hmm.
first story that allowed them to use Darth Vader. And I loved the concept of all of the merchandise, all of the marketing, everything that you would do for the movie except the movie. I thought that was brilliant. I
Had a
loved
soundtrack.
I loved the soundtrack. The soundtrack was the thing that I thought was the coolest bit of merchandise for the whole thing. And in the story, they basically are taking the idea that Slave One was damaged as he was escaping from Cloud City, and so he can't deliver Han immediately to Carbonite or immediately to Jabba. He's got
Mm-hmm.
to take it somewhere to get repaired, and this gives Leia and Luke and Lando and Chewie an opportunity to try and get Han back before he makes it to Jabba's.
Well, do you do
And
you do you remember how his ship gets damaged en route because it gets damaged by IG-88?
that's in the comic series. So this was another thing that they
First
did.
first Boba Fett story I ever read, by the way.
This is another clever thing, and honestly, it was done to sell more merchandise. They bifurcated the story through multiple different media. So in the novel, you tend to focus on Boba Fett on Gaul and a rebel strike force trying to catch up to him before he's able to take off. But in the comic series of Shadows of the Empire, you have what amounts to a bounty hunter war, where IG-88 and Forlom and Zuckuss and everybody they try and ambush
Bosk was the
Boba.
ringleader. Yeah.
Yeah, and they try and ambush the Slave One and capture Han in Carbonite so that they can take it to Jabba. They're trying to steal the bounty. So his ship gets damaged and he's got to go get it repaired. But in the comics, you get this badass story of Boba Fett outsmarting all of the other bounty hunters. And then, of course, in the game, And there were two versions. There was an N64 version and the PC version. You've got gameplay elements against both Boba Fett in that game as well as IG-88. So they really focused a lot on bounty hunters in this storyline as well.
Yep. So there is a there is a, I'm trying to think of how to put this. Um so I remember the thing that got me to look into Boba Fett in the EU. I was watching The Empire Strikes Back with a friend, and like we were in like probably junior high, and we're watching the scene where the conveyor belt, Chewie finds 3PO's parts in the conveyor belt, and next to the incinerator is the body of IG-88. And my friend says to me, "Oh, that's IG-88. He's a bounty hunter. Boba Fett killed him." And I said, "What do you mean Boba Fett killed? Like, what are you talking about?" And he's just like, "Oh no, there's like a book about it." I'm like, "What do you mean there's a book about it?" And so that's when I read "I Kill, Therefore I Am," the IG-88 story with all the different IG-88s. And
Five of them.
I was like, this is fascinating. Because in my head, George put it there because of this story, as opposed to George put it there and somebody built a story around it.
Yep. Yeah, and that's actually a really good story too, because it starts with them activating IG-88 in Hollow One laboratories, and this one is different somehow. It kind of breaks out of its uh, programmatic bonds, let's say, and begins slaughtering scientists in the laboratory, and then ensures that it will survive by downloading its consciousness into a bunch of other IG droids that then go off and start causing havoc throughout the galaxy. And that partially explained why you have different IG-88s in different scenes.
Mm-hmm.
There actually are some subtle differences between them. Also, for those who are really observant, the drink dispensers in the Mos Eisley Cantina are from I think it's a Bugatti car part. It's part of the engine of a particular race car anyway. The head of IG-88 is the drink dispensing units in the Mos Eisley Cantina.
Yeah,
So if you look there, it's just a part that they reused over and over again.
absolutely. But there's also like there was a story that like one of the IG-88s was aboard the Death Star too, I believe.
Where at?
I think I remember a story where one of them had gained access to the Death Star 2 and was trying to integrate with it to like assimilate with it and become the Death Star 2, and then the Death Star
That's
blew up.
right. I forgot about that one. That's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah,
Yep.
that was one of the, what were there, like 9 of them or something like that? There were like a bunch of them that were
There
all
were a
activated.
bunch.
Yeah, I it was I think therefore I am, I kill therefore I endure, or something like
And
that.
then, if you want to get into further retconning as it went on, in the Gendy series of Clone Wars shorts, you had the IG droids basically being um, uh, I don't know that you would call them assassin droids. I don't think they were intended as assassins, but they were certainly guards for the Intergalactic Banking Clan. That's where the IG portion of their designation now comes from. And this is where you saw in the short cartoon Obi-Wan jousting with them while wearing clone trooper armor. He jousted with a whole bunch of IG droids there. Um, so this is just further backstory and development of things as they retcon things.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, anyway, we probably beat Boba Fett to death by this point. We do have a few additional super chats to get to. We've got Spring 91 Bear for 2 saying, can't wait to see Cinema of 1984 on Friday. Yeah, that's the plan. I am hoping that Kevin will be back with us. If not, I may solicit his list from him, or we may reschedule to a different topic if that's one that he doesn't want to miss. So we'll see how that goes. Aaron Sleeper for $4.99. There is a way to watch Book of Boba Fett and make it okay, like from a 4 out of 5 to a 6 out of 7. I rewatch it like it's an extended movie, and I skip all of the Sand People crap. England G for $5. I told my wife I want to. I don't know if I can say that. I imagine that probably didn't go well. Uh, And Mike Glass, member for 10 months. His armor isn't Beskar until Legacy of the Force.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I suppose we could get into one other little side thing about maybe Boba Fett. I think this was, my memory's fuzzy now. I think it was in the New Jedi Order series. Do you remember the mysterious mayor character that popped up there who seemed to know a whole lot of things, and everybody sort of thought it was Boba Fett, and they never really answered that question? Do you remember that?
No, I don't.
There was a very strange mayor on a particular planet who seemed to know an awful lot and seemed to act a bit like Boba Fett. And I remember the fan community was convinced that's who it was. They never really confirmed or denied it from what I can recall. And it made me wonder if that was where the idea of him becoming a small town mayor in the Book of Boba Fett came from.
Maybe.
I wondered if they were trying to do an inspired by sort of thing, but I don't think it actually was Boba. I just know everybody thought it was at the time. Anyway, that which book? I don't remember. We're talking. It's been 20 years since I read it. I just remember that there was a mayor like that. There was a mayor. I I don't even remember how it fit into the plot. I just remember he kept popping up at interesting times and seemed to know things that he shouldn't know, and do things that he shouldn't be able to do. And the community collectively thought that's got to be Boba Fett. Um, I'd have to go back and look into it. I'm sure if you do a little digging, you'll be able to find it, though. Um, that is our show for tonight, folks. As I mentioned, we should be doing Cinema of 1994 on Friday, I believe. Marv, you got anything to pitch over the next couple of days before we get out of here for the night?
Oh gosh. Just new videos on the M4 Empire, M4 Cast Thursday night. I don't know when the next time I'm streaming on that game place is, but look out for an announcement for that. But it should be soon.
All right, sounds good. Folks, thanks for being here with us tonight. I hope you'll join us again on Friday night. Remember, we'll be on that pod place going forward from there, so make sure that you set your browser to that location instead of this one. Hope we'll see you there. Until then, take care.
The bell rings every morning. It's off to school and work. Waiting for some fun while my boss acts like a jerk. Pro show afternoons. Midnight sketch can't come too soon. Afternoon and sketch can't come too soon. But at night I'm filled with dread. I know just what I'll do instead. Come on and follow me. It's time you see for Lorn and Apollo. Time to laugh and learn. Come feel the burn of what the fandom was. What random fun doesn't escape? Isn't it great? Late night with Lorn and Apollo.